Aliens, ghosts, the supernatural, conspiracies. A cup of coffee? Welcome to Caffeinated Conspiracies. I'm your host, Glenn.
And I'm your host, Omer. We look at the eye-opening, the crazy, the unexplained. Do we give you answers?
No. But do we shed some light on the weird and wonderful?
Also, no. But we do look at different theories, plausible solutions, and even come up with our own.
We aren't experts, ufologists, or scientists, but we are open-minded individuals and have an interest in the unknown.
So put us in your pocket, grab a coffee, and let's dive into this week's episode.
Brace yourself for an episode that flutters on the edge of the extraordinary. In this installment, we're delving into the chilling enigma of the Mothman, a cryptid that's whispered in hushed tones across generations. From the shadowy realm of West Virginia to the very fabric of urban legends, join us as we unfold the wings of mystery surrounding this elusive figure. Grab your coffee and get ready to soar into the unknown. So, welcome to this week's episode of Caffeinated Conspiracies. We're drawing very, very close to the end of season 1 now, and I have to admit these next few episodes, these are probably going to be my favourite ones, I think, for this season. And this week we are looking at the Mothman. I don't even know where my fascination with this come from. I think I was listening to a random podcast one day and they were talking about the Mothman. And I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. And then I went down a rabbit hole and it sounded very Jeepers Creepers to me. If you remember the movie Jeepers Creepers.
I didn't make that link till you've just mentioned it.
It's very Jeepers Creepers to me. And that is sort of one of the... I mean, that to me as a kid was like the best horror movie I'd ever seen as a kid. I'm not saying now horror movies, let's face it, suck. You know, they're not good anymore.
But some of them have gotten really good.
Nah,
I'm not here to like name and like promote horror movies, but... like, there are some really good ones out there now.
Give me classics. Nightmare on Elm Street, give me the classics, and I'm happy. But this is not a movie podcast. But if you want a movie podcast, let us know. We could work on one next. But no, Caffeinated Conspiracies, and we are looking at the Mothman this week. Now, I ask you every week, Omer, where did your research take you?
This one's already mired in mystery of, like, it's just... a random sighting turned into a folk tale that just creates it in itself is the rabbit hole I normally fall into. It's already its own weird story. I don't need to fall any further.
Isn't it just? I tell you what, right? From the first sighting of it being like a bunch of guys working in a graveyard, a lot of people think it's the two couples that saw it first, but it's not. It was first reported by some guys who were working in a graveyard one night, and apparently it flew at them and scared the crap out of these guys. They all said the same thing: glowing red eyes, about 7 foot tall. Oh man, you have to tell me though, right? Well, you're watching my screen. Please tell me if any red glowing eyes appear behind me, because I'm going to crap myself. I feel like I've delved too much into this and I've unlocked something, and I am very, very terrified.
No, you're safe. You're in the UK. All my research says he's only been sighted in the US.
Yeah, true.
Or surrounding regions.
Well, we'll get into that because there's also the Chernobyl incident. But let's go into it. Let's get into the main brunt of it. Omer, where did your research go?
Mine didn't go that far. Not this one. But, like, I got the normal, like, Mothman stuff, the mythology behind him, and then, like, obviously I started with the couple's sighting. I don't think I found this graveyard.
No.
I was just like...
It's like... it spawned its own mythos after the couple's sighting. Like, it really hit big, because it had a book, a documentary, a goddamn movie...
Yeah, and they now hold a festival.
Oh yeah, the festival. My favourite thing to learn about Mothman was that he was the inspiration for Killer Moth from Batman.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you say that your research didn't take you down to sort of like the first sighting, which was in November 12th, 1966, in West Virginia. 5 men were in a cemetery preparing a grave for a burial when they saw something they couldn't explain. Lifting off from the nearby trees had brown winged. Basically, it was a brown winged creature. The men held the fact of what was lifted off beyond the trees was no bird, but it was humanoid. I mean, that in itself, you see like a human type creature thing flying off, you're going to be like, what the hell? Now, the thing is, like I say, I know we usually sort of give you the story and the information and then start going to conspiracies and the theories and sort of disproving things like that. But I also heard that this was a hoax. And there's many reportings of from different hotels within the area that said that one day a bunch of workmen were working on the road, and what they'd done is they'd tied the the blinking lights that are on the road signs for when they're doing road work.
Oh yeah,
They tied them to some like helium balloons and set them off. But how did it look humanoid? Now, the only thing I'm thinking of is that they've put a jacket on it, put some trousers on it. But I mean, helium balloons are not going to lift that. That's too heavy.
Depends on the jacket, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has, as long as the helium balloon is like heavy, got enough helium in to lift like a light jacket and.
Yeah. I mean, we're all.
You wouldn't imagine workers. You'd have to put like a high vis vest on it. That's about the lightest thing they have. But they don't have light pants of any kind.
No. But that to me. I mean, I'm one for a practical joke, but I mean, you'd be able to spot that. That's, you'd be able to see the balloons, you'd be able to see the things, and
wait, this is the couples. That's what they say in the couples.
No. This is what
the graveyard workers
the graveyard workers saw.
I mean, you work in a graveyard, you're going to have a sense of humour.
You've got to. You really have to.
So I would imagine them doing a prank like that.
Yeah, but. As you said there was the couples as well. So most of the sightings of Mothman all occurred in sort of roughly the same area, which was the TNT area. The creature was sighted in many places across West Virginia, but the largest sightings were the Virgin Ordnance Works in the area known as locals as the TNT area. It was an abandoned munitions depot in North Point Pleasant that dates back to World War II. The facility during the operation of manufactured ammunition, dynamite, that sort of stuff. And there was these two couples went up there, and apparently rose out of the darkness was this creature with 2 glowing red eyes.
Big wings and glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
And like a humanoid frame is what.
Exactly. And apparently it was, again, about 7 foot tall. Now, these people basically legged it off, got into the car, and took off at high speed. I do need to sort of make a point here that my research did show me that this car was a 1967 Chevy. And if you're a fan of Supernatural...
Probably why they chose the car.
You know where this is going. But apparently they drove off at speed, like quite a big speed. And I mean, we've only seen that car on TV. I've never actually seen it in person. I've never driven it. I wouldn't know what top speed could be. But they drove that car, and they say that this thing flew at the side of the car at up to 100 miles per hour without flapping its wings. Okay, and then what they did is they went to the police station. They went to the police station and reported it to one of the officers there, who was known to the kids that were done it. They were teenagers. The cop knew these teenagers, known them since they were kids, and they were reputable teenagers. It's not like they were the ones like we were when we grew up, proper rebels. These were, the goody two-shoes ones. Obviously, they shouldn't have gone to the munitions factory or anything like that. But, curiosity gets the best of us. And it wasn't until he come out and checked the car that he found claw marks on the car as well. And that's the bit that gets me. Is the whole chasing you at 100 miles per hour can be attributed to... It's a bit of a practical joke, mass delusion. it's a munitions factory. Who knows what sort of chemicals are sort of seeping around still from World War Two there. I mean, we're still terrified to go into a lot of places from World War Two in case we step on landmines and stuff. So, I mean, these munitions are going to be leaking something. And that's where my mind's like, I don't know. I want to believe that they saw something. I do. But I just think they were a bit. Basically, they'd got a bit. It was the 60s. It doesn't matter how good you are, they've had something. I can't explain the scratch marks.
No, because I literally spoke to someone today who was like around at that time, and like not everyone was high in the 60s.
Yeah.
I know we like to imagine it was like the highest period in history, well, modern history, but like it was in pop culture that people were known to be high thanks to Woodstock, all the other stuff. But like your general, they were no different to us at the time. Not all of them were high, only some of them were.
Yeah.
So just calling everyone high and saying they're crackpots, I don't like that. I was like, either prove they were high, or let it go. It's not always because you're high you see this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, at this one, I kind of... There's a lot of the skeptic in me that says, I don't want to believe any of it. It's got to have been a reasonable explanation. Claw marks, let's say Big Bird. Not the Sesame Street character, I'm just saying a large bird.
Wolverine come and attack them.
Although Big Bird does make sense, as the Mothman in the dark.
There you go.
He isn't he like 7 foot tall?
He is, yeah, he's massive.
But it's like if it was one-off incident where only one person saw him,
yeah,
you could call like just a moment of high that just sort of rolled. But you've got a couple of different incidents. The Chernobyl one you mentioned, I came across as well. But there's a few sightings of Mothman similar to sort of Bigfoot and other sightings. They are spotted, but they're all besides the Chernobyl.
They're all
around
Point Pleasant. Yeah, so there was over 100 sightings in Point Pleasant in the space of, I believe it was 13 months. They're all unconfirmed. The actual number of sightings obviously could be a lot higher that were never actually reported.
All the recorded ones I found, though, like the ones that said, oh, they're unconfirmed and recorded, are after 66. But apparently there were sightings before 66 that nobody recorded, but people are now saying, hey, I remember seeing something similar in that area.
I heard this goes all the way back to like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Now, that to me, obviously, because it's not been proven, we've got no one reporting it. We can't speculate too much on that because there's no research for us to look at. So unfortunately, we have to stick with what we've got.
There's just no recorded sightings till 66. But there are people saying they saw something similar or exactly the same before that, and they're like, oh, we didn't notify anyone because we'd look like we were insane.
Well, here's the point where it gets a little bit freakier. One person got a glimpse of Mothman and started to have nightmares of a what could only be described as a bridge collapse. She said that she dreamt that there was a lot of cars and Christmas presents floating in a river. And apparently somebody else saw Mothman and also had the same sort of dream.
Isn't that the plot for the movie?
That is the plot for the movie, yes, the Mothman Prophecies, which is also a book. And the book came from the guy doing the research about this. And lo and behold, December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed on leading up to Christmas, which is I don't know if it still is, but when I was doing my research, I haven't looked that far ahead, unfortunately. It's still like one of the biggest bridge disasters in America, where this bridge collapsed and all these people were literally stuck in the river and died. And I mean, I don't know, is it just the fact that they've had a dream of this, and could it just be coincidence? Or, I mean, two people having the same dream. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, this goes back to sort of why I don't want to dismiss the original Mothman sighting that was in the newspaper with the weird thingy. It's from '66 because there's other sightings. If there was just one, you could throw it off as like, oh, it's just one random event.
Yeah,
But multiple sort of makes you think there's something behind it. Might not be Mothman,
yeah,
but there is something behind it.
yeah,
Maybe like if they were just sightings after '66, or like, just one person had the prophecy and never shared it with anyone, like, it's like, okay, dismissible. But there's too much to say it happened before, and just people haven't mentioned it.
yeah. That's the thing. And as you said before, it was because of the popularity of Mothman that they created the Batman villain.
Yeah.
The Killer Moth, because he didn't actually appear in the. He was influenced by this, so that is pretty cool. But I've got it here. The collapse of the Silver Bridge was the death of 46 people, and this gave rise to the whole story of the Mothman. And it's because of the bridge collapse that sparked a lot of the interest and a lot of stories. And again, he just disappeared and he wasn't seen again until we saw him, until it was noted that it. But this bit you need to take with a very, very big pinch of salt with the whole Chernobyl incident. And the story didn't come out until many years after. I mean, this was like 30, 40 years, no, well, 30 years, which is around about this time-ish. It's only come out in the last couple of years. So he saw people saying that they saw the Mothman. But what they were actually calling it was the Bird of Chernobyl, I believe. That's what they were calling it,
Yeah.
or something along those lines. And I mean, that's one. But another one that's also interesting, and it isn't going to be one just yet because it's still quite a sensitive matter. We will talk about it eventually. Apparently, it was seen days before the events of 9/11. That's another one that I saw as well. But obviously, there's not much detail in regards to that. It is just a footnote that I do think needed to be sort of mentioned in there, because that's now sort of he's appeared at a bridge collapse. He's appeared, which is one of the biggest bridge collapses in history so far. The Chernobyl, the biggest nuclear incident in all of history, and the attack on 9/11, which is one of the probably the biggest recorded terrorist incident in the world. And I mean, could it be a coincidence that he's been spotted at three of the biggest things in the world? I do say it comes in threes. Is Mothman is Mothman the reason? Is he the harbinger of doom? These are all the things that he gets
I don't
called.
like the harbinger of doom thing, because that means like he creates it, or like he's aware of it and does nothing. It makes him sound evil, but like it's more like he's aware it's going to happen and know it's part of history, whether he's a part of it or not. So it's like he's just like, doom's coming, I'm here. Bah.
Do you reckon then he's just sort of like swinging by to make sure it's going to happen because these events were meant to happen? Or
Imagine if you had a roadmap to all the disasters in history,
I'd
and you
wanna see 'em.
couldn't stop them. You would be there, wouldn't you?
oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Pompeii. I
Yeah,
mean,
if you had
seeing the
full
events of
roadmap
Pompeii, I think would be
and
fantastic.
you could be there, you
Very
would
sad.
be there.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't matter
Definitely.
what the disaster is. Like the Hindenburg, if you had the ability to go there, you'd go there. You
Yeah.
can't change it or stop it, but you'd want to be there.
You don't see history. We
Yeah.
we are as much as we say always look forward and move ahead. We have a fascination with history, and that's where majority of these come from. Majority of these aren't. This whole season hasn't been anything modern. It has been things that have happened in history. And it's because of that we don't know how they were done, all these things were done. It's that it creates all this, and that's what I think has been fantastic. And I think you're right there. Maybe he is just a guy in a suit, and unfortunately looks like a moth. And he's gone to certain events to see them happen. That's probably a good point there. You've changed my mind.
New theory. It's a time traveler.
It's a time traveler.
I didn't even think of this when I was doing the research, but now I am. He's a
There.
time traveler from the future, dressed as Mothman because he knows the Mothman mythos already exists.
There you go. It's
So
Richard
no
Gere.
one's gonna.
It's Richard Gere. That's all
It's
it is.
Richard Gere in a moth suit.
I mean, have you got any more research in regards to this? Has anything else come tickled your fancy in regards to the story?
I mean, it kind of sits in the same category as all the other sort of random sightings of mythical creatures. Because that's what I feel he sits more under. He's not a conspiracy of some government, or he doesn't feel alien. He sits under sort of the mythological sector of everything. So, Bigfoot, sort of Quetzalcoatl, like, he's part of myth more than myth and legend than he is.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the world where you've got Bigfoot and Thunderbird sightings.
Yeah.
And Thunderbird is sort of Native American mythology, huge giant bird. You've got a giant man, which is, Bigfoot. That's everyone knows.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody saw them both together and just assumed it's a moth one creature. I'm talking more of a Power Rangers situation. One Zord locks onto the other.
Yeah.
That's what they saw. It would explain the height. It'd explain the huge wings.
Yeah.
And with one of them, I didn't do enough research into either of them to say maybe there's something red on one of them. I don't know.
So
Maybe just like cat, when you shine the light in it, you just see those bright eyes.
So what? You do reckon there's a convention where all the mythical creatures get together and sort of like the Loch Ness monster, its head folds down and Bigfoot sort of climbs on top and its arms disconnect and it turns into some sort of weird mechanical monster thing and it creates Mothman?
No.
Oh, do you reckon they all?
I'm not saying that either.
Do you reckon that they all just connect together and create Cthulhu?
It would work, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, Cthulhu is big enough.
I mean, you've got the spaghetti monster too. Like,
There you go. See, there's
that would explain the tentacles.
Mate, you've got the Chupacabra, you've got the Jersey Devil. There's loads we can go through at some point. We have to just do like a whole season just dedicated to weird creatures.
Weird creatures that have real world sightings.
That's season 4, folks. That's season 4 right there.
But I was just like, I found a map online of like sightings of, what was it, Thunderbird, Bigfoot, and there was UFOs, and there was another creature in that list. What else was in that list? The Dogman.
Okay.
And they all do sort of, well, UFOs are separate to this, so I'm not even going to go into them. But like, Thunderbird and Bigfoot do sort of go around that region. They cover most of the US, but they do cover that region too.
Oh.
So, like, if you throw Mothman in the equation, maybe there is, like, maybe Point Pleasant, and especially the TNT site. Because, humans aren't going to be there.
Nope. Exactly.
It's a good place to do, like, a creature catch-up.
Creature conventions. I think on that note, we are going to take a very quick break.
For those just joining us, Mothman is more than just a cryptid. It's a whisper in the night. A shadow in the corner of your eye. The story that captivated a generation in 1960's small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was forever marked as the site of the creature with wings, fiery red eyes, and aura of foreboding.
Mate, I think from going forward, man, you are doing those intros. I think season 2, mate, you are on those intros because that was that gave me chills. We are. That is like the best comeback we've had after the break on any episode. I love that. I love that.
Got to practice them more, but sure, we'll maybe we'll get better.
There we go. Let's look at now sort of the theories behind Mothman and some of the conspiracies that have come out and some of the crazy stories. So, where did you end up?
I actually ended up in West Virginia. And for some reason, every time I say that, I don't know why. You want to go,
take me home.
Yep.
Country road.
Yep. I need to sort of stop myself before I just start singing to everyone.
West Virginia, yeah. Mountain
Country
Mama, take
That-
me home.
It's so too tempting. God damn it, music, you've ruined me.
That's why you can't take this show seriously. Please always take this show with a very large pinch of salt.
But because of like the rural area in West Virginia, my favorite theory was that it is a single really tall dude, because you get 7-foot humans,
Yeah.
who has lost touch with society. What were you going to say?
We have a friend who's like ridiculously tall, who you can find on another show that we do. Well, I do anyway, which we'll mention on next week's episode when we do have our fellow friend from that show on, and he can advertise it because it's not my place. I'm on this show. I focus on this one. But we have a friend who is like nearly 7 foot tall. He's massive. So, I mean, I could understand him being confused for Mothman. And I will put a picture of him up on our social media if he allows us to.
You can imagine Adam, right? He's a hermit who doesn't like people.
Yep.
He knows theory of Mothman exists and people are scared of him because harbinger of doom. He just puts on wings, puts on like 2 bike lights, red ones over his head. So they're just above his eyes, not on his eyes. So he can see, but you just see 2 red glowing things. And just wanders around at night so people will leave him alone.
I genuinely can see Adam doing that. I'm not
That was one of my
going to lie.
favorites. This was like a Reddit thread that somebody put about it. And I was like, that makes so much sense. I kind of feel like sometimes in my life, I feel like I want to do that.
Yeah, damn right. That sounds well good.
So Mothman, like, it was like Mothman sightings could just be one dude or multiple people just looking to be left alone.
Yeah. You know what? It's completely plausible. I really well and truly believe that.
I mean, it felt more down to earth than the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, every week we've had sort of like balls to the wall ideas and sort of crazy ones out there. That's actually quite sort of looking at the human nature side of things and just wanting to be left alone. And the way to do it is to look like a weird creature because no one's going to come near you. I understand. Yeah, I kind of get that. Any other ones that sort of jumped out at you?
All the other ones were like, there was no reason. It's a deformed human. I want to say, I'm calling it now. This episode is cursed by Mothman.
It is. It is. We have had
Definitely like unearthed something about him that we're not meant to know.
I have, and I do apologise if the edit of this episode is a little bit all over the show. I have had some technical difficulties this evening. I have now had to tether. I've had to tether the internet to my phone instead of using my internet at home because it is playing up, and I do apologise. So if this episode is a little bit off, we are very sorry. I know we are leading up to the very end of the season, and we don't want to mess it up. So please do bear with us. We are still learning.
I need to know what you've learned about Mothman to make this episode the hardest to record episode we've ever done.
Well,
what insight did you learn to curse you?
Have you got any more that you want to talk about Mothman before I go into mine?
The rest of mine were just like the obvious, like the hunchback theory, you know, where he was just born that way, like a deformed human.
Yeah.
Another one was like, it's just a large bird trying to stand up on 2 legs, but then that doesn't explain the arms.
Yeah.
I was like, although like he does sort of look like the Slender Man in cosplay, because like the original of him was a slender, muscular man about 7 feet tall, white wings, which makes him sound like an angel, by the way.
Well, that's one of the theories that we've got here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, who is it?
He's a fallen angel, basically.
Who's
meant to look over Earth, but he's sort of lost touch and faith in humanity. That he just stands there to watch these events unfold and just thinks, I could help, but I don't want to. So now my theories have been very, very much out there. Now you've got your traditional ones, is that it is some sort of genetic mutation from the factory, but obviously he's been seen in the past before these reportings in 1966 and 1967.
Look, he's just chronologically challenged. He pops through time.
So there's the theory that the Mothman is an ancient being that has been here, is a precursor again to us, and it is just making sure that history doesn't unfold the way it did for them. That was one that I read, which was quite interesting, but there was nothing to sort of back it up, nothing to say, and I believe it was just some random person who's just come up with this idea. One that really did tickle my fancy, and maybe this is why we're having so many issues, is it is a genetically engineered being, but by the New World Order, to oversee apocalyptic events that will set a chain of things into motion to create this New World Order. Now, we've been asked to do an episode which will be coming in a later, which is going to be in a later season, which is the New World Order, but also sort of goes hand in hand with the Denver airport and things like that. And apparently, it's all connected. So the whole story of Mothman, all these things are connected to the New World Order. And the Adam and Eve project, which was obviously massively debunked. But, you know, why was it debunked? And, these are the things, and that is one of the...
If you're relating it to the New World Order, and that being like which we got... I'm so ready for that one.
You've got to imagine powers that could say anything's debunked with it actually being true. So...
Yeah.
If you're throwing that in and saying debunked, is it really debunked?
Exactly. And maybe that's where I've delved too deep into something. And that's why internet has been going funny. They don't want us to get our message out because we're onto them. Maybe that's what it is, mate. You know, we've stumbled
New World Order know your broadband provider, but they don't know your mobile provider.
Yeah, exactly. That's because I've got my VPN on. Remember, folks, we should be sponsored by a VPN just for this exact instance.
I was about to say the VPN I use, but I'm like, nope, they're not sponsoring us.
Exactly. I'm not giving out any names to any company that I use for anything. So those are some of the ones I found. Obviously, there's the generic ones as well, is that it's not a Mothman at all. And I know you said no to aliens, but there is an idea that he is a being from another planet. Basically, he was only here for, 13 months and disappeared, and we've not really seen any sightings like we did in Point Pleasant again, apart from the one at Chernobyl and then the one at the events of 9/11. But, I mean, if he was, what's he done? Just come back for like a quick farewell sort of grand tour as he's leaving, just to sort of say goodbye, but it just so happens to appear when there's going to be these big incidents.
Just so long and thanks for all the fish.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing with the story of Mothman, because it's been so long now, and there hasn't really been any other sightings, none that are that we've had full eyewitnesses from. Like I say, the ones from Chernobyl came out years after. And people are saying it's a large bird that, looks like a moth, but birds flap their wings. Obviously, when they're gliding, they don't. But you find me a bird that can fly at 100 miles per hour, which is what apparently they did, which Mothman did when it chased the young couples.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that 100 mile per hour thing, I just felt like that's a dive speed. Like,
he must have had height to begin with.
Yeah.
And dived at them.
Well, the other theory was not only was it felt like a big bird, but like a giant owl.
Oh, that was one thing I came across, Owlman, which I put in our list for a different episode.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll cover it some point down the line. Maybe we'll just throw it in with a bunch of others. But there is an Owlman separate to Mothman.
Okay. I mean, this is one that has been looked into so much over many years, and many smarter people have come before us, and they've tried to crack the story of the Mothman. Is it real? Is he not? Was he a man at all? Was he a moth? Was he some sort of creature? Was this just was it a hoax gone wrong that just sort of spurred on for so long and just sort of got out of control? Again, it's one of the ones that we just don't know the answer to, and again, I don't think we will. But I have to ask you, as I've asked it every week on every episode, would you want to know the truth if Mothman was real? Or are you happy just living in ignorance and living the stories of a supposedly 7-foot Mothman hybrid creature in a TNT factory?
I would only like to know if it was the truth if he was real.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd feel like disappointed, even though my cynic brain is like, oh no, it's definitely not real. It's just like high people, or like one of the many like theories that we've put out there. But if things like that exist, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
And I'd like to delve more into it and like actually look at it from a believer's standpoint, because like all the cryptids and all the different creatures that you see and things that are, I'd like to believe they're true. But the fact that too much that breaks them off makes me feel like none of it's true, because I don't believe enough of them. I don't believe most of them are true.
Yeah.
And it's like I'd like to live in a world that has more than just this single layer of reality that we live in.
Yeah.
I feel like life would be a little more exciting if he was real.
Agreed. 100% agree.
Just like any of them. Just give me one thing. Give me one thing. Not all the crazy theories that people have or weird sightings. I don't need all of them to be true.
Nope.
Just one.
Just one.
Just so I know there's a possibility for the others.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that one. I mean, I would like to know if it was real, because I honestly don't think, because one of the theories is that it was mass hysteria. Basically, everybody saw one thing. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Everyone thought that every little thing they saw was the Mothman. A bird that flew too fast. A fox walked across the road. A man jumped out of a bush. Everyone thought it was Mothman. But that's the only thing with mass hysteria. And, I mean, I don't know. I kind of, like I say, like you, there's the skeptical side of me, and then there's the side that wants to believe. And the skeptical side just says it's something that could be quite easily explained, but do I know what the explanation is? No. Part of me, though, there is a Mothman, but unfortunately, I don't think he was seen at Chernobyl. I don't think he was seen at the events of 9/11. I do believe that we did see him in 1966 and 67, but I think the reason that we've not seen him again is something has happened, and unfortunately, Mothman is no more.
Maybe he had a human lifespan and died before 9/11.
Well, moths don't have a massive lifespan. Usually they fly into somebody's kitchen and they're dead.
Fly in my kitchen and they're pretty much dead.
Exactly. One flies into our bedroom or something, and I'm the one who has to get rid of it. We all do. So maybe, Mothman didn't have a very long life and was only
Bigfoot
around.
Found him. He was in his kitchen. He slapped him. He died.
There you go.
But I suggest Bigfoot has a kitchen.
I mean, I want to know the truth. I'd love for Mothman to be real. I really would. I think it'd be a fascinating story to find evidence of this man. But then again, there's been no evidence found. There's no proof. Nothing. None of the research I've done has come to a conclusion about the claw marks in the car. Were they real? Did they just hit something and it scratched the car? There's been lots of recordings of hoaxes and people playing practical jokes back then. But yeah, there's no definitive proof, and I think more than anything, we don't have an answer again. We never do on this show. I know you'll find some podcasts that don't take "we don't know" for an answer. We do. We love the "we don't know" because
we don't know makes life more interesting.
Exactly. I love to live in that ignorance is bliss sort of thing.
Ignorance. I don't think I like the ignorance is bliss, because that sort of leaves us down a different trail. But I like the
fact that there's wonderment. There's wonderment on this big rock that we call Earth.
The fact we don't know means there's a lot to learn about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So many possibilities to it.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I don't think I can go through much more of Mothman in case the New World Order comes to take me away. Because I've clearly discovered too much, and they really, really are trying to disrupt my internet. So I want to say thank you very much for tuning in this week. Like I say, we are very, very close to the end now. And we want to thank those that have been with us from the start up to this point. We have some great episodes coming up over the next couple of episodes. So please do stay tuned, keep listening. Thank you for all your support. It has been fantastic. We've had a blast doing this and really enjoying it. I already can't wait to show you season 2. We've not even finished the first season. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm out of coffee. Have we given you answers? Have we left you with more questions than you came in with?
You can let us know on all our socials. Links are in the description. But be sure to leave us a great review to please the overlords.
You can find all our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you tune in next week when we have a fresh pot of coffee, some more crazy theories. But for now, I've been Glenn.
And I've been Omer. See you next time on Caffeinated Conspiracies.